Hello and welcome. On today's episode of Cookery of Mason Storm, we are going to be conquering the topic of hamburgers. Traditionally in the West, we serve hamburgers on buns, but I'm going to be making more of an Eastern style and serving it with rice and gravy. Ingredients are 1 egg, 1 tablespoon of minced garlic, 1 tablespoon of onion powder, 1 teaspoon of cayenne pepper, 1 cup of panko, and a kilogram of beef. Mine is lean. Now we'll get our egg and our spices and mix our spices with our egg and proceed to beat the egg. Now our goal when making hamburgers is always to move the meat as little as possible. The more you work it, the less juicy it's going to be. And the quality measurement of a hamburger is how juicy it is. It's not a meatball, it's not a rock. It needs to be juicy. When you bite into a burger, you want the juices to be filling your mouth. Having our spices all pre-mixed definitely helps with this process. I had to add a little bit of water here. My slurry of spices was a little bit too concentrated, and that could have been problematic, but this seemed to resolve it pretty well. Now moving on, we can get ourselves a nice big bowl. And with this bowl, we can add our meat, as well as our spice slurry. Still a little bit thick, hard to get out of the bowl, but it is what it is. And now for our panko. Now I'm just going to use my hands here and gently fold in the mixture of spices and panko. Like I said before, you don't want to overwork your meat, because if you overwork your meat, it's not going to turn out very good. So you're almost better off having it a little undermixed than overmixed, because when you overwork your meat, it just dries out and you just lose that juiciness. And when you lose your juiciness, your burgers just won't be as satisfying. Now when it comes to the physical construction of the actual hamburgers themselves, I prefer to use the scale method. I weigh out about approximately 118 grams, give or take, plus minus 2 or 3. And that's about a quarter pounder. I don't know if that's a legal weight for making them for yourself, but that's pretty darn close to perfection. Now as far as the physical forming of the hamburger, I go for a round shape pressed between my hands for as much flatness as I can achieve, and then I push in the center of the burger. This really helps in the cooking process. And it doesn't take long to form hamburgers by hand, and it's not overly complicated. I used to have a hamburger press, but I never really liked how it turned out because I think it overworked the meat and then it wouldn't be as juicy. It would be far more compacted, whereas the organic means of construction using your hands, you don't really run into that problem. Now the other thing to be aware of is you don't have to eat all your hamburgers when you make them. It's actually probably best to save a bunch. So what you can do is you can stack them with wax paper or parchment paper and just put them in the freezer once you're done. And then later on in the future, at an undisclosed time frame, you can simply cook them up. It takes a little bit longer cooking from frozen than it does from fresh, and you might have to augment your cooking technique slightly, but it does work pretty good, and the hamburgers you make yourself are typically far superior to the ones you get at the supermarket. All the pre-made burgers in boxes. Especially if you find a spice mix that you really enjoy. I enjoy my own spice mix that I use here, but it's not to say that it's the best one. Others would work just as well. Depends on your own personal taste and the preference of the people that you eat with. Okay, let's cook up some burgers. So I'm going to do these on the stove. It's a little too cold to cook on the barbecue. And I'm going to use the low temperature method, so I'm going to cook them at number 4. If you cook them at a low temperature, the burgers will tell you when to flip them by having moisture appear in the center of the patties. Although I think I had my temperature a little bit too high doing this because I had to flip them before that started to appear. But it is what it is. It's a lot of fine tuning when it comes to cooking burgers. Like with a lot of cooking on the stove top, I recommend doing 5 minutes and then seeing where you are. If you want to flip it then, that's good. If not, wait a couple more, then do the same. And if you cook a couple of them, well, a couple sets I mean, you know, when you cook like 6 or so burgers, you're going to have it down pat by the end. And if you make them all the same the next time, then you know how long to cook it. So just an iterative process to come to perfection. And you can really see the burgers kind of sweating in the middle. Now this is after they've already been flipped, so that kind of means that they're done. But if you see it like doing that, kind of bubbling up in the middle from the beginning, then that means that it's time to flip them. So that's just kind of one of the visual signs of when to flip a burger. Now we're going to be making Eastern style hamburgers, so it's much more like a Salisbury steak. So I'm just going to make some gravy here. I'm just going to follow the instructions in the package. So we need 1 cup of water, and then we'll turn our temperature on our burner up to medium. There we go. Then we'll dump in our package of the gravy, and now we just keep stirring it until it starts simmering, and then we stir it for another minute and then it's ready. So having gravy on your burger is quite good, quite delicious. And having rice with a burger is also quite good. And I think I prefer the rice with a burger rather than having a bun with a burger, because the carbs in the bun are just not the same as the carbs in the rice. Although I'm only making regular rice for this, not fancy super healthy brown rice, but still the same. It's pretty good. And it's a very different taste having your burger with gravy and rice as opposed to onion, ketchup, mustard, and all the other American condiments, but works out pretty good, I think. There we go, our gravy's looking about the right consistency. We'll just take that off the heat. And here we go, here's our finished product. So I just have a couple of burgers on the plate with the rice, with the gravy covering everything, and a nice salad to top it all off. What a fulfilling meal. I wish fast food had meals more like this rather than what we have with all the fries and whatnot. Anyway, that's the end of this one. Just let me know what you have on your burger as far as condiments go. I'm really quite interested. Please feel free to like and subscribe. And until next time, stay awesome.